Hey Truth Seekers, it's Nathaniel here to do another deck profile video. Today I will be covering my Love and Faith deck using Calvin. So I had a bit of a debate of trying to figure out what would be the best kind of Animo to run alongside Calvin. I know that the Love and Holy Spirit did very well. I think that Love and Hope would do pretty well too. Or just Mono Love. I was actually using Mono Love for a while. I did a deck profile with Calvin using Mono Love. So I came to the conclusion that probably Faith would be the best kind to run alongside the Love in Calvin. So Calvin, he has a victory condition that says win by defeating 5 Sinnies. So essentially, you defeat 5 Sinnies, you win the game rather than defeating 6 Sinnies. Now I run 2 Love power cards, 2 Faith power cards, and 3 Prayer power cards. In this deck, I'm going to see my power cards because I run Quillos and a Kinleo. So that's all the power that you need. And now moving on, we are going to go to our equipment cards. I got 2 Bellatrix. Bellatrix interesting. It says when this card is attached to a Love Animo, instantly draw 2 cards. Then number 2, once per turn, as long as this card is attached to an Animo in play, you may pick up the top 4 cards of your deck and return them to the top of your deck in any order. So you attach this, draw 2 cards, and the way I like using this card is as long as I don't have any actions, I like to be able to look at the top 4 cards in my deck and rearrange them according to the number of cards I have in my hand, so I can just draw the cards that I want to draw out of those 4. Then I have 2 Paul's Chains. This could become 3 Paul's Chains. Paul's Chain says the animal to whom this card is attached may not be activated, but may be discarded at any time during your setup phase. Once per turn, as long as this card is attached to an animal in your small group, you may search your deck for up to 2 level 1 animal and place them in your small group. If there is no room in your small group, this card has no use. You want to attach this to Poperes or an Opopany Ultra, because you want those cards in your small group. You normally can get away with activating 3 Animo in a turn, and you don't have to activate the 4th, although you can, depending on what Animo you have out here. So that way you can use, you don't have to worry about ever losing the Animo that has Pulse Chains attached to it. Next up, 2 Sandcastle, because Opopany is the other win condition in this deck, or a card to affect the win condition in this deck. Being able to search for either 1 Ultra or 1 Mega Animo is very helpful. Then we got 2 Runaway. This deck does a lot of recycling because of the Faith, but having the Runaway just as an additional boost to go grab your Opopany, your Flows, your Believer. Normally you're not going to grab your Believer, normally you're going to grab your Flow because you're using your Believers to grab your Flow. But the Runaway is an additional way of grabbing those cards. Sinnies have Zapper King. Zapper King has the action that says your opponent may not play any level 1 Animo from their hand into their small group next turn. Crasshopper. When this card is played, your opponent reveals their hand, select 1 card, and have them shuffle it back into their deck. So after your opponent's used an action to search their deck and add cards to their hand, you're going to use this Crasshopper to look at their hand and get rid of a card. Venomoth. Venomoth says as long as this card is active, your opponent's Animo may not be activated in the same turn you're added to or grown in your small group. Then we have Scorpoon. So Scorpoon has the action that says if you're not already facing a Sinny, your opponent must reveal a Sinny from their discard pile if they have one and play it against you. Scorpoon is essential to the deck because your opponent's going to reach a point in the game where they're like, it's not safe to play Sinnies against you. And so they're going to start discarding them or shuffling them back into the deck. But if they do not shuffle them back into their deck, they are going to have Sinnies in their discard pile. And you're going to use Scorpoon to have them play one of those against you. And then they're facing a 12 defense Sinny, you're facing a big Sinny. And if you have Poperes in there, you don't have to worry about actions or abilities. Next up, we have Venomoth Mega, 13 defense Mega Sinny that says, action, your opponent may not activate any level 1 Animo on their next turn. And then we have Mega and Mega. I chose not to run any pluses in this deck, simply because if I'm playing against another Calvin player, they're going to wait for me to discard my Mega plus or my Mega plus, and I'm going to then they're going to play Scorpoon on me, and then I'm going to be stuck with them winning because they played 2 Cinnies on, or they defeated my Cinny that's worth 2. So all these Cinnies are worth 1. That was one of the main ideas behind this deck. Now moving on to our Animo. We have 3 Hightail, who has Retreat. And Retreat says if this card's in your hand, you may choose to reveal it to your opponent, shuffle it back in your deck, and if you do, draw 3 cards. Basically it's like my story card that I used to draw 3 cards, except it's recyclable. Believer says, action. Search your discard pile for any 1 Faith Animo and place it in your hand. Believer is used to grab back my flows. So I need my flow level 1 and my flow level 2. He's going to grab back my flow level 1, so I can use my flow level 1 to go grab back my Opopany Ultras. It also is a 1 Faith, 1 Universal, so as long as I have at least 1 Faith and out there, I'll be able to activate him. Next up, we got 3 Hoofits. Hoofits is essential in the deck because it is one of the ways you get your Opopany Ultras back into your deck. It is also one of the ways that you shuffle itself back into the deck, so that way you don't deck out. It's also the ways you get your Flow Ultras, or not your Flow Ultras, but your Flow Level 1, your Flow Level 2 back into your deck. Hoofit is essential to the deck. Next up, we have Flow Level 1. Flow Level 1 has the ability, says when this card is played from your hand to your small group, you may place 1 Love Animo from your discard pile into your hand. This is how we get our Opopanies Ultras back into our hand, so that way we can play them again. Flow is really good. Next up, we have Flow Level 2. Flow Level 2 has the ability, says as long as this card is in your small group, any Love Animo that is played may not be targeted by the actions of Cinnies. So Flow Level 2 is really good, mostly because it costs 1 for 9. It is a Fellowship deck, so you're trying to trigger these Fellowship bonuses. Most likely you're going to get your Opopany Ultra out there. You're going to play your Flow Level 2. You're going to activate your Flow Level 2 and your Opopany Ultra in the same turn for 19 points for 3 Virtue points, meaning that you still have the space for 2 more Animo and 3 more power. So you can activate a second Opopany Ultra and another Flow for 38 points in a single turn. This is pretty good, and you can get it consistently. Plus, you don't have to worry about losing your Flow Ultras because you have, not your Flow Ultras, but your Opopany Ultras. And you can use your Flow to go grab back your Opopany Ultras. Plus your Red Letter, or your the Runaway, and Hoofit. Next up, we have our Love Animo, which is Chuakinleo, level 1. Has an action. You may search your deck for a Faith, Hope, or Holy Spirit power and add it to your power pool. Ideally, you only have to really activate one of these, go grab back a Faith, and be able to use Quillo to grab your other Faith. Then we have Quillo level 1. It grows into Quillo level 2. Quillo level 2 has the action. Search your deck for either 1 special power card or 2 standard power cards and place them in your power pool. Being able to grab Prayer is really helpful because it gives you a lot more adaptability. Every deck should run Potpourris. It's a really good card. 3 for 7, decent value, and it has the ability that says as long as this card is in your small group, ignore the effects from the actions of any Cinnies revealed to you. And then we got Tweetheart. Tweetheart does not have to be in the deck, but it is a 2 for 5 or a 2 for 7, which is really decent. And we got Fairly. Fairly does not have to be in the deck, but Fairly can be activated with alongside your Love Animo or your Faith Animo. It gives you the Fellowship bonus regardless of kind, as long as activating the same turn as another Animo. Next up, we have Heartvark. Heartvark is a 2 for 5, which grows into this 2 for 7, but has a fellowship bonus for 10. This one is our Animo that searches for cards. It says, search your deck for up to 2 Animo with a Virtue Print score of 8 or less. Reveal them and place them in your hand, and shuffle your deck afterwards. So essentially, we're going to be using this to go grab our Flow Ultras. No, not our Flow Ultras. Our Flow Level 1, Flow Level 2. Other Animo with Fellowship bonuses, because they usually are low to the ground. We use it to grab a Hoofit. We can't use it to grab our Agapesaur level 2, but we can use it to grab our Agapesaur level 1. And speaking of which, we have Agapesaur level 1. So Agapesaur level 1 is actually kind of neat. You normally don't want to be discarding your flows, but you can discard your believers. Or a Hoofit if necessary, or a Hightail if necessary. The ability says once per turn, discard 1 Faith or Hope Animo from your small group and search your deck for 1 Love Animo and place it in your hand. This is one way that we can grab basically any Love Animo in our deck, but more importantly, our Opopany Ultra. Sometimes I use it just to go grab like Quillo or something that I need to set up. But most of the time, we're going to be using it to grab Agapesaur. So this is Agapesaur level 2. Agapesaur level 2 says, ability, as long as this card's in your small group, any Cine that is revealed to you also has the weakness of Agapesaur in addition to its stated weakness. So one of the neat things that you can do, since it just says Agapesaur, not Agapesaur level 2, is that you can have Agapesaur level 2 in your small group and Agapesaur level 1, and you can quote the Bioverse on your Agapesaur level 1 to defeat 1 Cine, and you can use the Bioverse on your Agapesaur level 2 to defeat a different Cine. So that way you can defeat 2 Cines through the Bibleverse challenge with just the effect of 1 Agapesaur level 2. But you have to have both of them in your small group in order to do that. Alright. And then finally, we'll get to the card that alters our win con, which is Opopany Ultra. Originally, I did have a Flow Ultra in the deck, which is why I kind of mentioned it, but I decided to go with 3 Opopany Ultras for 2 reasons. Number 1, and the primary reason, is because Calvin reduces the win condition by 5. This one will reduce the win condition to 4. This one will reduce the win condition to 3, and this one will reduce the win condition to 2. So, if a player is competitive and they see that you're running Calvin, they are going to be expecting you to also be running Opopany Ultra. Because Calvin does not do anything that's really worth running him, but in combination with the Opopany Ultras, you can win by defeating 2 Cines. Plus, you already have the ability with Agapesaur to just quote the Bible verse and defeat 2 Cines. And with Scorpoon, which let me go grab him real quick, you have the ability of forcing your opponent to play a Cine on you. And if that is a Mega Plus, then that's 2 Cines right there. So your opponent might be aware that they can get away with playing 1 Cine against you if they suspect that you have all 3 Opopany Ultras. They might even risk it and go to 2 Cines, because they might think you only have 2 in your Flow Ultra. But once they see that you have Opopany and they see all 3 from your deck, they're going to know that they should only play 1 Cine against you. And then you can use Scorpoon to force them to play another Cine against you, so that's 2. And you can either defeat it by Agapesaur or just by throwing points at it. Now, the other reason why I run 3 Opopany Ultra is because Opopany Ultra is a 2 for 10. Now, because this thing is like sacred in this deck, like you do not, like normally you would not use this card to be activating to gain points every turn. But it is a 2 for 10 for a level 1. That is amazing. Like, other 2 for 10s are like level 2s, which means you need at least 2 other cards in order to get the 10 points. Or they have like the fellowship bonuses, right? Like a Heart of Arc. So Heartvark is a 2 for 10 with a fellowship bonus. So you not only need 2 cards, you need 1 other specific faith card So you need a total of 3 different cards just to get this one to be a 10. However, this one's a 10 by itself, and that's really strong. Now, the thing is, if you want to win by defeating Cinnies, then you use your flows to get these cards back. So you activate it, 2 for 10. Next turn, play flow. Grab this back. Play it. Now you have the option of going for 19 points. Or, if you defeated enough Cinnies, you got this. You'll just play your Opopany and you're good to go. Because you'll get 3 out there, get this guy out there, and you'll win. Now, obviously, you got Sandcastle and Paul's Chains to get them. Paul's Chains is probably the better card because it grabs 2 of them. But Sandcastle, between Sandcastle and Paul's Chains, you're going to be able to see these cards. All right? And if you're not seeing these cards, then you need to draw more cards with your Hightail. And you need to search them out with your Agapesaur. All right? Your Agapesaur level 1. All right, so in the meantime, Truth Seekers, I'm going to bring this video to a close. But my main stressor with this deck is that these guys are beat sticks that you can actually use to get victory points. Or, sorry, virtue points. All right? You're going to get the virtue points with these guys. All right? And then you're going to recycle them. Put them back in your deck with Hoof It, and then use Paul's Chains to pull them back out. It's a lot of fun. And since you do want them in your small group, ultimately, you can just have one sitting over here on the side with a Paul's Chains on it, so that way you're just using these 2 to get points. There's like 30 points in a single turn. And if you have the 2 Flow Ultras, or the 2 Flow level 2s, that's like 38 points in a single turn. So, I mean, they are a lot of value. Plus, your opponent's not going to want to play Cinnies on you. And if they do, you can use Agapesaur to get rid of them. And you have Popraise in the deck to prevent you from, so you don't have to deal with their actions. Anyways, I'm going to stop repeating myself, bring this video to a close. So in the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating Cinnies.